if you're fortunate enough to get a below market rate, we can very quickly end up being a very high rate due to what we call lease indexing. So most leases tend to have a built-in schedule of increases. That's what we call lease indexing. So whether it's an annual increase or an increase every 2 years or 3 years, depending on what you negotiate, the other factor ends up being, well, how much is it going to increase by? Is it predetermined that it's going to be, let's say, a $200 per year increase, or just a fixed, let's say, 3% increase every year? If you know what that is, then you in years 4, 5, and 6, and 7, my lease rate's going to be X, and you can budget for that. But a true index, however, is when your rate is tied to a variable figure, and the most common index we see in commercial leases tends to be CPI. Different kind of CPI with Tony. CPI is basically an index for inflation, and so what you have then is, if your lease is tied to increases based on CPI, you're not going to know, and you can't exactly budget 3, 4, 5 years down the road, because that number is going to vary year throughout year. So what you want to do in those situations is definitely get a cap. Historically speaking, the last 20 some odd years, nationwide CPI hasn't really been terribly out of control. However, there was a period back from 74 to 82 where it was anywhere from 7% to like 13%, which adds up very quickly if you're getting a 7 to 10% increase every year. So you don't want that. So you definitely want to negotiate a cap. So if you're going to do a CPI increase, then you want to say, okay, I'll accept CPI as my index, but I want to cap it at no more than 4%. So this way, if CPI for some reason jumps to 5% next year, your increase is only 4%.